It's day 15 of 31 days to regenerate your world, and we're replacing ornamental houseplants with a manly herb or veggie plant.
We are regenerative dads, guys who can't stand mommy blogs or hipsters, but still want to leave their kids a better world. Podcasting to you from their man caves in Colorado, Danielle Freeman and Jason Gray are being organic and green, and still being men about it. Here are your hosts, Danielle and Jason, Regenerative Dads.
Hey Regen Dads, this is Danielle Freeman.
And this is Jason Gray.
And you're on day 15 towards regenerating your world like a dad. Today's episode is supported by a bee-friendly company out of Cheyenne, Wyoming. And we're replacing an ornamental, kind of useless house plant or yard plant with a man-friendly herb or vegetable. Maybe something we can grow with. Let's get with it.
We're on a 1-month dad's boot camp for all things green, organic, and eco-thrifty to get you up to speed with the stuff your kids are talking about and why your hipster nephew glares at you when you pull the Roundup out of the garage. Give us 10 or 15 minutes a day for these 31 days, and we'll help you to stop poisoning the yard and your kids, learn to tolerate the farmer's market that mom makes you go to, and even be able to wade through all that hippie granola talk out there about what you do in your home, your castle, or your front yard affects your local and global environment.
All right, guys, let's talk about herbs and what you can do to replace those useless ornamentals in your front or back lawn. You know, there's a lot of them out there that are just, they look kind of nice, but you really can't do anything with. There are steps you can do even if your wife doesn't believe that you can keep up with a full-on garden yet. You can add this stuff to your meals that is both awesome tasting and useful.
Even if you have an HOA where you live, or what we like to call them, helping to obliterate agriculture, there are still plants that you can put in your front or backyards that will be useful, but also pleasing to the eye to keep those blue-haired HOA snitches happy. Many HOAs actually prohibit gardens or edible plants in the front yards at all. But what happens when you put a limit like that on a dad? We chafe. We get annoyed. We figure out a way to stick it to the man. I know, Danielle, at one point you used to live in town and had an HOA. How did you deal with all that kind of crap?
Yeah, we did. And I mean, honestly, ours wasn't too bad. It was an older neighborhood that we lived in. But one of the things that we did was I had an area that I put in a bunch of flagstone. And instead of filling the cracks with sand, which is what you normally do, I put down a lemon thyme. It completely filled itself through the whole area, which was kind of cool. It looked really nice. But as you walk through there, you know, the neighbor comes over for a beer or whatever, you walk through there and you take a couple steps, it smells really, really nice. And you're able to take some scissors, cut it, and you can go cook with this stuff.
Very cool. What are some of the plants that guys can plant out in the front yard or even in the backyard and get some real use out of them? One is garlic chives. You know, like the ones that Mom asks us to pick up from the store when we're having baked potatoes. They're cheap and easy to grow. And they look nice and don't look like, you know, basically you have a farm in your front yard, which is what the HOA people are really afraid of. Another would be mint. And there are several kinds of mint. You got peppermint, spearmint, lemon mint, chocolate mint. But you got to be careful with those because they could be productive and reproductive. They will spread all the way through your yard depending on your climate if you let them. Maybe, now that I'm thinking about it, with mints, maybe keep them in a container pot on the patio or, you know, along the walkway. They'll still look ornamental, but then you can sneak your the Swiss Army knife out with you, grab a couple sprigs, and then run in before anybody sees you. Other ones that are going to be like that, sage, saffron, Egyptian walking onions are actually very pretty and don't look like food. Basil, parsley, that's just to name a few.
You know, Jason, one of the cool things that we're experimenting with this year is actually an African asparagus pea.
Asparagus pea?
Yeah, asparagus pea. It looks really cool, and it's got these small bright red flowers on there. The container that we have it in has kind of a draping effect. which, would really be cool in the hanging pots and whatnot. It grows all season long, all summer long, but like right about now, you're getting these pods that are on there, and they look like a pea sort of, but they taste like asparagus. So I think next season we're going to be growing quite a few more of these because they just look so nice.
Before we talk some more about how we can do this, some more examples, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor.
Today's episode is brought to you by a bee-friendly company from Cheyenne, Wyoming. Michael's honey is some of the best we've ever had and makes some of the greatest mead we've ever sampled. Please check him out at abeefriendlycompany.com. And if you just want to learn more about bees, you can go to his website and learn a lot more what you can do about in your yards and whatnot to attract bees to your place.
So let's get back to the show here. Let's talk veggies that you can plant that are pretty and practical. So let's just not talk about herbs and stuff, but some of your more common veggies. Rainbow Swiss chard, or what they call bright light, is the variety name when you're buying the seeds. That's a nice one that looks fantastic, and if you cut the leaves pretty early, tastes amazing, even raw in salads.
There's some other ones out there too. It's, I believe it's called a dinosaur kale. Mm-hmm. It gets real big, leafy. You can make some really great tasting stuff with that. My wife has made some kale chips out of it that, she'll make them and they'll be gone in an evening. Another simple one to look at that's often overlooked would be a sweet potato. You can do so much with sweet potatoes. Check out the Scarlet Empire bean also. It's got nice purple flowers, kind of spreads out, and you get some beans out of it. Tomatillo. They spread real nice, and no one can see what they are because it's got a nice little husk that goes around the tomatillo, make those some great salsas, etc.
Yeah, that'd be great for Taco Tuesday. Go out there and just grab the tomatillos, and then you got yourself a meal. The thing that you can use, like, a lot of these that we're talking about are kind of ground covery kind of looking ones, but carrots, even carrots, you can hide in your front yard garden, we're calling it now, because it is the same species as Queen's Anne lace, which a lot of people use as a ground cover. And then just towards the end of the season, you're going out and while you're weeding, well, just grab those carrots and, make sure you hide them before the community patrol sees what they actually are. Another one is, let's talk about things that you can go the other direction. Stuff that is common in the ornamental business, but actually can be used edibly. Hibiscus is a great example of this. You can grab the young flowers off the hibiscus plant and make hibiscus tea. You think about going to Starbucks and you buy a cup of tea at Starbucks, you buy the passion tea or the passion iced tea at Starbucks, that's hibiscus flower tea. Another interesting point about all of this is that if you're hiding those edible plants among your ornamentals, you're going to accidentally discover that a lot of these plants, both the ornamentals and your new edible ones, will both grow a lot better among these other varieties and species because they're not going to be competing for the same sunlight, the same amount of water, or the same nutrients at the same root levels. This is all key to some of those fancier farming phrases like permaculture that we're going to be discussing tomorrow in episode 16.
Jason, I don't know if you ever heard of sunchokes. Mm-hmm. We got a few seeds a few years ago and planted them, and they pop up to a real nice little plant. It's a small berry, and for some reason, most birds will leave them alone. They come up late spring, have a nice greenery. They get about 18 inches tall or so, and they're just sweet as all get out. Now, they won't come back on their own like an annual does, but they will seed themselves. So we found a few popping up here and there. We just kind of leave them alone because, man, they just taste really good. Okay, Regen Dads, let's get to being a regenerative dad.
Come back next episode for our next simple, guy-proof way to regenerate your world. In the meantime, check out regendads.com, and on social media, if it's a thing, we're probably on it.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Just look up Regen Dads on it. It's not hard. Figure it out.